Well, welcome to episode 4 of the UnderDAWG Show. Today, I got a feeling it's going to be a classic. I definitely got one of our, Hall of Fame swimmers, Collin Gladys, here to join us. Also with us, we have one of our senior sprinters, Jack McCormick. And, we're really going to talk about the transfer process. We're going to talk about their experience at the University of Redlands, but we're going to talk about the transfer process. Collin Gladys is actually the head coach of one of the junior colleges, local junior colleges. And Jack McCormick transferred from Santa Rosa Junior College. So, they have a lot of experience with transferring, you know what I mean? So I just thought this would be a good time because I think we're in a time to where a lot more students are considering maybe going to a junior college or going to community college before they go to your 4 years. So, hopefully these guys can give us some experiences, give us some gems, some of the things that they went to. So I'm going to introduce these guys. First up, I'm going to have Jack McCormick introduce yourself, and, you can kind of give us a little tidbit of how you ended up at the University of Redlands.
Yeah, so my name is Jack. I'm obviously, as Nate said, sprinter here at Redlands, currently a senior, wrapping up my final year here with what little bit of a season we kind of got going, which I'm super thankful for that we have. But yeah, how I ended up at Redlands is a crazy story. It has a lot of kind of wormholes, so I'll try to avoid that for the sake of the podcast here. But I originally, out of high school, I actually got in contact with head coach Leslie Whittemore for Redlands, and she was recruiting me out of high school. And I ended up getting accepted, and it was a really big toss-up between a couple other schools, but mostly Redlands and the Santa Rosa Junior College. And I was like 100% in for both of them. I had a lot of friends that were leaving, and I was going to be staying local if I had gone to the Santa Rosa Junior College. And so that was kind of a difficult thing for me to deal with. And I also, there's kind of a stigma or kind of, I don't know, I felt like there was a little bit of judgment on staying at the Santa Rosa Junior College because I think there's this really ridiculous stigma around junior colleges that, dumb kids go there or, kids who couldn't make it, and which is completely ridiculous. I mean, my team while at my time at the JC, I think was like 3.0. It was called All-American Academics. And I think we were all like 3.0 and above students. The junior college's like math department is one of the hardest courses I've ever taken in college, even after transferring. And I mean, they transferred to UCLA, Berkeley, Stanford, you name it. So I think that stigma really is kind of more, it should definitely go away if it still exists. And I think it was more a mental thing for me. So I ended up being really happy that I went to the JC, but I was still 50-50 coming out of high school. And because of money and a couple other things, I decided to go to the JC. Obviously, I was being recruited by the head coach, who's my mom at the Santa Rosa Junior College. It's kind of funny. But yeah, so I ended up going to the JC and did my 2 years there, which was awesome. And I'll probably talk more about that as we get into the podcast. But still kept in touch with Les, which I really appreciated. Coach Les was reaching out to me, checking in on times throughout the 2 years that I was still at the junior college. And I think became more interested in me as I definitely got faster in my freshman and sophomore year at the JC. And so we kept in touch, and out of the JC, I applied to some big UC schools. I was looking into I'm an econ major, and I was looking into their econ departments. And, there was some great program at Redlands as well. So I applied to 4 schools. I think it was UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and UC San Diego, and then University of Redlands, obviously. And I got into a few of those, didn't get into some of them. And it was a big toss-up between UC San Diego and Redlands for me. And also at that point, I was considering whether I should continue swimming or stop. And a lot of people at the junior college level don't continue past that because it's really hard. I think swim has this really difficult spot right now where there's not really an in-between between being a Division I Olympic trial athlete or Division III. And that's not to say that D3 is slow or anything like that, but there's not a lot of in-between. And I was kind of sitting at that in-between spot, and I wasn't fast enough for D1, but definitely fast enough for Division III. And basically it came down to Redlands really caring. The UC system kind of pushed me aside, which I didn't like too much. Even after getting in, I didn't feel very much like a student. I felt more like a number to the UC system and a big school system. And Redlands was, and this is a lot to say on Coach Les's side as well, just kind of on me. How's it going? What can we do for you? And before I was even in the school, and it was just when I was considering it. And that coupled with my eagerness to continue swimming because of the really good season I had on my junior college team for the 2 years that I was there, it was a clear decision to come to Redlands. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
Yeah, that's really good, and that stigma is crazy. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
Even on the swim side, a lot of students, they feel as if there's some sort of failure if they go to junior college. You know what I mean? There's so many benefits, but we'll get into that stigma a little bit. I'm glad you brought that up. You brought up so many good points, but Collin, go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give us a interesting story of how you got to Redlands.
Yeah, definitely. So I am Collin Gladys. I am the head men's coach over at Cypress College. I teach there as well. But how I got to Redlands is kind of a weird story. I kind of bounced around a lot. My freshman year, I swam at Arizona State. My sophomore year, I ended up redshirting. And at the end of our freshman year, our team got cut because of budget cuts. So it was like us, guys wrestling, and guys tennis. Guys tennis wasn't able to get an endowment because 90% of their team was international players, so they had a hard time fundraising. Men's wrestling, the owner of Sunkiss basically wrote a check for $8 million because he built their training facility. And then ASU, we had to end up, you guys know now they're endowed for forever with Michael Phelps and Bob Bowman being there. But we had to fundraise, and fortunate at the time, our head coach was an assistant at Stanford, assistant at Harvard. We had some strong alumni backing, so we were able to get an endowment for the previous year. But our team was kind of in shambles. We lost our whole recruiting class because of that, and everyone in my year ended up kind of dispersing. So I was on the fence of what I was going to do. So I ended up redshirting my sophomore year. And at the end of my sophomore year, our head coach ended up getting fired. So at that point, I was going to transfer, wasn't sure where I was going to transfer to, talked to some schools, and I ended up going over to Auburn because I almost went there out of high school. And I had a pretty good relationship with Brett Hawk at the time, and I knew some of the guys over there. So I ended up going over to Auburn for a semester, and it was probably around Halloween time, and I got a call from my old roommate from ASU my freshman year in the dorms. His name is Moran Terze. So he was a swimmer and a water polo player at University of Redlands. And he was like, I was just kind of telling him I was kind of over the whole Division I thing. I wanted to kind of enjoy the last few years of my swimming career and enjoy college. Because, D1, it's great and all, great competition, but it's grueling. You don't really have much time for yourself. You don't really have much time to enjoy yourself. And Moran was like, hey, why don't you come over here? We have a really cool coach, Les. You would love it. Your parents can watch you swim. And I'm from Yorba Linda, which is like Anaheim area. And, I thought about it, and I ended up going and taking a trip out to Redlands, and I met with Les and saw the campus, and Moran basically helped sell that to me. And I ended up transferring at the semester, and so that's kind of how I got to Redlands, kind of all over the place, but it was the best decision I ever made. That's for sure. I'm really happy I ended up finishing there.
Man, that's a dope story. And we got to see what Moran is doing these days and get him on the podcast. You know what I mean? Sure. But you named, and I'm not sure if Jack or other people listening kind of are familiar with those names like Brett Hawk, and you know what I mean, like that. We're a little bit closer to age, Collin. So just growing up in the swim community, and just watching swimming, I'm familiar with those names, and that's an interesting take to all this, because I talk to students who are, like Jack said, that bubble is it's like a weird spectrum with the sport of swimming, because usually the students at the top of our roster have the option to go across 3 divisions. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they can swim with some of the lower level Division I programs, you know, and so there's a lot of crossover compared to other sports.
Yeah.
But man, you'd be surprised. I get students who, and our conference is pretty good. And I get students who like literally, you know, wouldn't even crack the A final, you know what I mean, as far as their times. And they're like, no, coach, I want to swim D1. And I'm like,
yeah, it's wild. And now for me, because I go recruiting now to a lot of these high schools around the area, and it's mind blowing the amount of kids that think they're going to go Division I, and they just got another thing coming. Because, you know, at that point, like Jack said, it's a numbers game, you know, and they only take X amount of swimmers to travel. So it's not like everyone on the team is traveling and getting to compete.
You're just going to be going and practicing. Exactly.
If it's a home meet, then you could swim exhibition. So you're not even scoring at that point, you know? So it's tough. You know, I was fortunate enough at ASU, we didn't really have any breaststrokers. So I was our breaststroker for the relays. So I was able to travel there. Auburn, though, was a different story. You know, I was only there for one meet, or on the team for one meet against Alabama. And thankfully I didn't swim it because I was able to transfer over to Redlands that semester, that following semester, and, you know, finish out the season. And that's the season that I won the 2IM at NC. So it was a good season. So, you know, it was the best decision I ever made for many reasons, not just, you know, for the swimming part, but school wise, like Jack said, you're a numbers game. So the class sizes, so nice at Redlands. It's like a family there, you know, the alumni, everyone, you know, if you go to U of R, everyone that has been a part of that U of R family, so close knit, you know, always looking out for each other, which, you know, if I graduated at ASU, it's the biggest school in the country, you know, you don't really get backing and stuff like that. So it was really nice. I met some of my best friends at Redlands, and it's like a community, you know, and that was one of the great things about being there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, we could talk about that. We could kind of shift the conversation about that experience, right? The student experience. So when I'm recruiting, that's one of the things I really try to, you know, push and explain to the prospective student athletes, like your student experience. And, you know, I'm a believer, even though I'm coaching a D3 program, I think, and most programs, you know, you talked a little about the D1 level and, you know, the grind of it. But I think at some other, you know, a lot of D1, not maybe like the big UCs, but a lot of D1 programs, like the students can make it an academic and athletic balance. But I think the difference is at a school like Redlands is you have that third element. You have, you know, your academics, you have your athletics, and then you literally have the time to be involved with other things socially, whether that be organizations on campus, whether that be, you know, whatever you're involved in, you have the time and in a lot of ways encouraged to get involved with something other than what you're passionate about academically and something other than swimming. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And that's huge because, I mean, after college, there's not much opportunity in the sport of swimming, unfortunately. You know what I mean? You can train to Olympic trials and stuff like that, but you know, after 4 years of college, most swimmers, their career's over. So it's nice to kind of get an idea of other things that you might be interested in or willing to kind of take up or pursue after your swimming career is done. So that kind of gave me some opportunity and time to do that as well.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway from the University of Redlands is the balance aspect. You're able to do multiple, I mean, swim is obviously is like priority one besides academics, and it takes a lot of time and it's a big time commitment, but I think it's worth it and it doesn't take away from other things. I'm an economics bachelor in science major, which is a pretty difficult major. I have a minor in business as well. I'm in a fraternity, a Greek org on campus as well. I work on cars. Like I'm able to do all this stuff while also still being a pretty successful swimmer and committed. I don't feel like I'm spread too thin. I'm still able to be top tier in each of those things and be passionate and really caring about what I'm doing in each of those things. And I don't feel like I'm drowning. Whereas like, I feel I have a lot of friends who have been in Division I programs and they've either quit or it's been too much because they're just completely spread thin and you're doing a lot of the same thing over and over. And it's not as refreshing as it would be with a balanced schedule. And I think you can really find that here at Redlands.
Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah. So talk to me. I want, both you guys give me your perspective on this. I know out of high school, you guys had certain perceptions and expectations of what you thought college swimming was, right? And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I battle with, right? Because I'm coaching, I'm on the college pool deck, and I have a lot of college coaching friends, and I've been doing it long enough to understand, like, get a good idea of what the student experience, looks like across 3 divisions, right? Across different types of schools, private, public, right? And so the most kind of heartbreaking thing is, like, a lot of students think they know what they're getting into, whether it's going to be a Division 3 program or whether it's going to be a Division 1 program. You know what I mean? And like I said, there's no knock to Division 1 programs. It's for certain students. Like that student experience is for certain students, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest problem that I have is, everyone assumes that's for them. So every, quote unquote talented swimmer assumes the D1 experience is the best option for them. So you guys talk to me a little bit about, like, your expectations of college swimming and what the difference was once you actually started. And, Collin, that can be like when you were at Arizona State and Auburn, and Redlands, and, kind of reality checks. And, obviously there was a difference there. And you could even talk about, like, what your expectation of Division 3 swimming was. And then once you got to Redlands, you were like, okay, So, I'll let you go first, Collin, and Jack, you can
definitely.
talk about.
So, going into Arizona, I kind of knew it was going to be a grind, but it was a big difference jumping from ASU to Auburn. That was kind of an eye opener because, ASU at the time, we were Pac-10, Pac-12 school, but they weren't, up at the higher rankings of the schools. Whereas Auburn just came off of winning a national championship year before I got there. So just the expectations and like we would do dry lands that lasted 4 hours, and it was brutal. Like, I was out of shape going into it, but it was a lot of work and it was a long grind. And literally it was kind of waking up, working out, class, working out, and just back and over and repeat, back and over and repeat. ASU, I was at least able to kind of enjoy myself a little bit more. But going from Auburn to Redlands was a breath of fresh air, just because I had been on that grind for so long from such a young age. And now finally having time for myself to be able to do the things that I want to do outside of the classroom, outside of the pool, and be able to kind of experience, going out of town for the weekend, things like that, just little things that you can't do when you are swimming D1, going up to Big Bear, up to the mountains, stuff like that, So being able to have a little bit more freedom and do the things that you want to do, whereas kind of being confined to class, practice, and that's it. And that's year round too. That's in the summer as well. So it's not like summer too, you get a break like D3, which is unbelievable. You're on that grind year round, especially if you stay out at the school during the summers. Like I did after my freshman year, I stayed out in Arizona and trained with the team, and just same thing, just maybe not taking as many classes, So it was a breath of fresh air. Definitely.
Yeah, Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back a little bit to my junior college experience. I think that's a little bit different from the D1, D3. It's actually kind of, so I would say my junior college level, I don't know the exact, it's like CCCAA or something like that is the term for the junior college level. And I think it's very comparable to Division 3, especially in California. Even sometimes, like, my conference was even faster than like SkyX was. And obviously not as fast as NC's, but my conference, like, I think I finished, like, I think I was 8th in the 50 free my sophomore year. And then at Redlands, I was able to get a 2nd. So, and I mean, I got a little faster, obviously, and stuff like that, but it's a little bit quicker at the junior college. But I think one of my biggest takeaways, and like I think I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a grind. And of course I didn't go that D1 route. But when I got to the JC, I think one of the things that you don't really realize or think about, I think you're like, oh yeah, I'll make new friends. But I have some of my best friends on my junior college team and here at Redlands because of the level we're at and just like the camaraderie you get. And I wouldn't say I wasn't really expecting that, but like it was a lot more so than I was expecting. I didn't know I was going to get this close to so many people. And even at the JC, it's only 2 years, and at Redlands, after transferring for me, it's only been 2 years. And I'm like, these are people that I hope to see at my wedding one day type thing, you know? And I guess I didn't expect it to be that big of a deal. You know, swimming is a very individualized sport. And I think you have at the Division I level, again, not to knock on it because it's definitely for some certain students, but you have a little bit higher of a competitiveness between scholarships and stuff like that. And I think it's a little bit more individualized. Whereas at the D3 in my community college level, I mean, everybody gets along great. And I'm really glad there was great camaraderie between the men's and women's teams on both of those teams that I was on. And I just don't think you would necessarily get that at a Division I school. And it wasn't necessarily something that I was expecting. And I'm really glad that I got out of coming to both Redlands and going to my junior college.
Yeah, and what people don't realize too is that D1 schools, they only have 12 scholarships to give out, 12 full scholarships, maybe even less now. So you got to think too, a lot of international guys are coming over and taking a lot of that scholarship money away from people in the States. And yeah, they don't offer D3 athletic scholarships, but there's other ways around it to get scholarship and to get school help paid for, you know, with grants or whatever it may be.
Or going to junior college.
Exactly. You know, so it's, people think, you know, they might get scholarship money and this and that, but when it comes down to it, there's only so much money they have to give out. And typically, you know, if you're not a foreigner, you're going to get a small percentage of that scholarship money. Whereas, you know, Redlands, they can find avenues in different ways to get you more money and to get you, you know, grants, scholarships, academic scholarships, whatever that may be, which will help then, you know, pay for school. Because school, as we know, isn't cheap these days. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, you know, that's one of the biggest things. And, you know, that I talk to with parents, you know, who are a little new to the process of, or the idea of academic scholarships. We all, you know, we don't know much about it, but just growing up, you hear, you know, if I'm going to play D1 sports, I'm going to get a scholarship, you know what I mean? But just like Collin said, you know, each team has a certain amount of scholarships, right? So, you know, that's dispersed, you know, and I always encourage parents, like, go look at the roster number. You can tell, like some of these teams have like 28 guys in the roster, you know what I mean? Yeah. So 28, you know, divided amongst 11 full scholarships, and you do the math, you know what I mean? And like you said, some foreigners are getting, you know, and that's assuming that the team is fully funded. You know, the majority are not, especially in today's day and age, you know, majority are not. So, you know, the big time, maybe Pac-12, SEC, ACC programs may be fully funded, but, you know, a lot of the students that are looking at Redlands are looking at the lower, you know, smaller schools that, you know, now it's 6 scholarships they got divided, you know what I mean? Now it's 7, you know, instead of 11. So the money gets even more tight. So I always just encourage them to just look at the bigger picture and then just explore the idea of academic scholarships. Because like you guys said, one day swimming is going to be over, right? And so you're going to have to lean on your education. That's what you're here for. But more importantly, one of the things that's going to help you is your network and your friends and your circle around, you know what I mean? That's what you're going to be leaning on, you know, and I feel like a lot of people don't put too much emphasis. So you don't even have the time to nourish and develop relationships because you're on the grind.
Yeah.
You know, what are we actually selling our young swimmers? You know what I mean? Like we're selling them like, you know, we just want you to practice. And that's the dream, to practice, eat, sleep, practice, and go to class. That's the dream. You know, for some swimmers, it may be if you're an Olympic trial, you know, potential person, but for a majority of our swimmers, you know, we got to do a better job of transitioning them beyond their swim career.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, making NC's D1 is harder than making Olympic trials. So a lot of people won't ever even get to NCs. Whereas D3 NCs, you have a much better opportunity to, you know, actually make that meet, and that meet's a great time. So that's another thing. You know, it would have been very tough to make NCs D1. Not saying that it couldn't have happened, but being able to go that D3 route I was able to experience a little bit more than I would have been able to with the whole D1 thing.
Okay, so cool. Like, so in the next segment, we're gonna just talk a little bit about, you know, and I'm, you know, if I may, you guys kind of pretend like you're talking to a potential high school junior or senior, right? You know, and I know you do a lot of this already, Collin, when you recruit, you know, but, you know, you're talking to somebody who would fit perfectly in the junior college, you know, realm, you know what I mean? You're talking to somebody who you see as a coach, or you see as someone, you know, who went through that, Jack. They would fit perfectly, you know, some of the similar things that you went through, some of the similar thought processes are going, but one of the hurdles is they are stuck on this idea of, like you said, junior college is a step backwards, you know, or stuck on this idea that if I swim for a junior college team, somehow I'm not fulfilling my potential as a swimmer,
Yeah.
you know, by going JC. So, you know, you can go first, Jack. What would you say to that potential swimmer who is maybe considering junior college, but there's a lot of obstacles, you know, and a lot of maybe naysayers who are saying other things?
Yeah. Deciding to go to a JC, especially when you have other options, is definitely a difficult thing. And you definitely want to explore your other options, but I would not take away my JC experience to save my life. And I when I was a senior in high school, you know, I was like, I want to get out of here. I want to go to a school, you know, and I want people to see me as like, you know, better because I went to some X school or whatever it is. I went to a 4-year right out of high school, and like that isn't real. People don't care where you go at all. Like nobody cared that I went to the JC. So
no one sees the first 2 years of your school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and the other thing about going to a junior college over a 4-year straight out is you're going to be taking the same classes as everybody else.
Yep.
You know, except for a fraction of the cost, which is a remarkable opportunity. And on the swim side of things, I can't speak for other states, but I know for California, you're going to be swimming against some top dogs that are just ridiculously fast. The state meet that we had at the junior college, it was obnoxious. I think so. I was paying most attention to the 50 free, and I think the fastest 50 free I saw was like a 19.1 or something like that at a community college state meet. And I'm like, I mean, it should just wipe out that stigma of the JC teams not being fast. Like, you have some ridiculous competition, and it is a great time. And another really cool thing about the JC experience that I had with swim is all the community college like guys and girls, even, we all made buddies on different teams. I have friends that were on Sierra College. I have friends from OCC, you know, and it's kind of a tight knit community, pretty similar to Redlands' SkyAct conference with like CMS and Pomona Pitzer. I mean, I made buddies with all those people that were behind the blocks with me at finals, you know, and I did the same thing at the junior college, and the competition is just rowdy, and it was a blast. And there wasn't a moment at all where I ever felt like, oh, this is too slow, or I wish I was competing against faster people. Like it was quick, and it was a ton of fun. And I really enjoyed my swim career at the junior college, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. And that's coming from somebody who like didn't want to do it at first. Like I didn't want to go to a JC at first and swim at a JC.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, and we get a lot. Honestly, if I'm being honest, we get a lot of swimmers who, you know, are on the fence. You know, in various different aspects of college swimming. Right? They could be on the fence about, I don't even know if I want to swim in college because I love swimming, but I've been doing it since I was 5. You know what I mean? I'm a little burnt out. We get those swimmers. We have some kids who are on the fence, you know, as they matriculate through their years, like, okay, you know, because like you said, Jack, it's a commitment, you know what I mean? Like freshman, sophomore year, I was able to handle it, but junior year, man, this is hard. Like my academic load is increasing. Like this is tough, you know what I mean? And we have students who are on the fence of various different things. So I think that's a good point that, you know, once you got into it, you realize like, okay, you know what? This is way better than I thought it was. Like this trend, you know, it transcends anything I thought it would be. And I'm so glad that I did it, you know, and that's usually the thing. That's, you know, your dream college experience, and it sounds like that's what Redlands is. But what about you, Collin?
Yeah, well,
what would you say?
Jack, first, the competition in our state is ridiculous at the junior college. You know, I can't speak for every other state in the country, but California state is very fast. So you're going to have great competition regardless of, you know, what junior college in California you go to. Also, you know, when you're 18, you don't know what direction you want to go in with school, right? You might say you want to be a psychology major, but that stuff changes, especially as you kind of progress through classes and kind of see what your niche is and what interests you. So having those 2 years at a junior college that you can get free instead of paying thousands of dollars a year, and being able, like Jack said, you're taking the same exact classes, but it gives you that time to kind of figure out what direction you want to go in. So instead of just kind of wasting money and just taking classes and not knowing the route you want to go to, and I've seen that happen a ton. Also, those 2 years, you know, say you're maybe a D3 caliber swimmer, but those 2 years at a junior college, who knows how much you can improve, you know? So you can, you know, out of high school, maybe be a D3 caliber, but after your sophomore year, be D1, mid D1 kind of caliber. So you never know. It gives you that 2 years of kind of ability to get some more training in and kind of see what happens with that as well. So having that is nice. Having free school for the first 2 years of college is nice, not going in debt. And just kind of having that time to figure out what direction you want to go in school-wise and career-wise. That's important. You know, I change majors a lot. So
yeah, 100%. I totally agree. It provides for huge flexibility. I was originally a business major. That's what I wanted to do going into from high school into my junior college. And I had a phenomenal professor at my junior college who completely changed my mind. He was like, no, you're going to be an econ major. You're up to the challenge. He's still my mentor to this day. He's helping me with grad school applications and job applications as I'm graduating here. And so I completely changed I mean, to be fair, business and econ are pretty related, but I was able to completely change my major. And I have tons of friends at my JC that did that. And, you know, there was no wasted money and even less so wasted time with doing that at a junior college because, you know, there is that flexibility there versus going to a 4-year. So definitely agree with that one.
Yeah, it's huge. And, you know, because especially nowadays with everything going on in the world, you know, money's tight for everyone, not just, you know, you and I. So being able to have that and to kind of save yourself from, you know, going in debt and save your family from going in debt, it's all the better reason.
Yeah, that's really good. That's something that like I talk to students, you know, on both sides of the spectrum, because we have, honestly, because of COVID, you know, the pandemic, we have not a lot, we have a handful of students who, you know, are strongly considering, you know, going to the JC route, you know what I mean? And, you know, instead of going into, you know, the fall 2021, the fall this year as a freshman, they're considering, you know, well, hey, I'm going to take some junior college classes and, you know, and see what happens. And, you know, I still like Jack, I'm still interested in Redlands, but, you know, I want to explore this junior college route and see what happens, you know. And I'm like, just because I know, you know, like firsthand, you know, this is my second year, my first year, you know, one of our best swimmers is a junior college transfer. So I know the benefits of that. So like for me as a coach, you know, I feel like some coaches may approach that and say, you know, like we missed out on this kid. And I'm like, well, actually, this may be a huge opportunity for him and us. You know what I mean? Because like you said, he may come, if I keep in touch, you know, he or she may come back and say, hey, you know, and now they're a pretty decent swimmer, but they can come back and be an amazing swimmer. You know what I mean? And so I just look at that as like an opportunity. You know what I mean? I try to communicate that, like, you know, do what's best for you. You know, and sometimes what's best for you and what's best for us come kind of married together, and we can have a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what it sounds like what happened with you, Jack. So that's good.
On that, like so first of all, between when I graduated high school and then my time at the JC, I was able to drop almost 2 seconds, I think, in my 50 free, which is huge. And I would also encourage, like, you know, I stayed in touch with Redlands, and I'm so glad that I did, because Les was able to follow my career at the junior college, and then it made for a very smooth or easy transition into the transferring process. You know, I'm still interested, even though I went to the JC for 2 years, I still am very much interested and keep in touch. And I don't think anything has to be lost in those 2 years. Also, this isn't like, I'm not being like, you have to go to a junior college. It makes so much sense. I mean, I kind of am because I'm biased, but but there is a lot to going out and you know, going to a 4-year out of college or out of high school, sorry. And, you know, if that's for you, that's perfect. Like you should totally do that if that's what's best for you. Or also you could explore community college outside of your local area. I ended up staying local to try and save more money, but it's very affordable to go to a community college, like from NorCal to SoCal or SoCal to NorCal. So, and you can still get that college experience away from home while also saving money. So it just depends on what's honestly best for you, whether it's going 4-year right out, going to community college local at home, or going to a community college far away. I don't think anything's missed in any of those opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with that.
For sure.
Yeah, some things are good or better for certain people, you know. So, you know, at 18, we're not really too mature as a guy, and I know a number of people that, you know, took off, went away for their freshman year, first semester, and we're back home the second semester.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes we're just not mature enough to do that yet. Maybe we need a year or two to kind of mature a little bit and kind of get our feet underneath us, so we kind of have a better base to kind of start that kind of journey.
Yeah, I was a completely different person when I graduated from the JC than I was graduating high school, for sure. Like just life experience and stuff like that, completely different person.
And you know, the perspective that I'm thinking about, Jack, is the coaching perspective. You know, I know, Collin, you can probably attest to this. Like, so I would imagine if you would have came here fresh out of high school, Jack, you know, everything may not have been smooth sailing, you know what I mean? And getting the freshman, you know, personality and having the junior personality. Because now, like, it's, you know, I'm not trying to toot your horn or anything, but it's like, it's a blessing to have you on the pool deck, you know what I mean? And you can kind of help out with our younger guys who are still kind of navigating, and like you said, Collin, still kind of mature and still trying to figure out this college thing. It's the first time they're away from home, and you know, they're in college and they're excited about it, which can be an amazing thing, but also can lead to some, you know, growth opportunities. I'll put it to you like that. So we get the opportunity to get the matured, you know, Jack, who can 100%, 99% of the time, you know, contribute positively to our men's team, you know, and, you know, and not to say that, not against anybody who comes in the freshman year, but it's also a challenge for coaches to kind of have to deal with that. You know, I know, Collin, you can kind of speak to that about, you know, dealing with the younger freshmen and sophomores. And, you know, I think it's a different role as a coach to take on, you know, high school kids are just going for 2 years and then kind of transitioning them and giving them off to other coaches as they've matured, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to kind of have to prepare them and get them kind of ready for that step, because, you know, once you get to that next level, coaches don't take shit, and that's kind of how it is, you know. So you got to kind of let them know that, you know, it's either you're there on time and you're doing what you need to do, or it's like a job. You're going to get fired. You're not going to, you know, be on the team, whatever it may be. And like for me, I wouldn't have been able to go to Redlands straight out of high school. I didn't have the grades to do that. Luckily, because of transferring from Auburn to Redlands, Les was able to pull strings and things like that. So, you know, there's also that. It's a much better academic school than ASU. And, you know, I'm grateful that Les was able to do that and kind of take me on. But, you know, some of the people that might be on the fence and might be on the border of like not being able to get into a SCIAC school, those 2 years could give them that possibility to be able to actually get admitted into admissions. So that's another thing that's really important.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good point. It's a really good point. All right, so on the next segment, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the SCIAC. I'm glad you brought up the SCIAC, right? So, this is another thing that I try to communicate to student athletes, how competitive our conference is, on the Division III level. You know what I mean? And for my Les is, she's been around a lot longer than I have, and she's seen the ebbs and flows of the conference, and I'm, relatively new. I coached at Pomona Pitzer for 2 seasons before, got to Biola, then Redlands. But I feel like, especially now, Pomona Pitzer and CMS does pretty well. But the rest of the schools, like 3 through 6, like they just get a little more competitive. I think, to look up 2, 3, 4 years from now, we may look up and, our conference is going to be probably, if not the conference that has the most depth, one of the strongest conference, so can you guys talk a little bit about, share your experiences? We walk on the pool deck, we look to the right, we definitely see your name on the record board, So these guys, like, they haven't really said much about their accomplishments, but as far as University of Redlands is concerned, and Jack still has a lot more to write, but, they've already kind of put their footprint, as far as Redlands swim and dive is concerned, Jack is, all conference 50 freer, and part of our record 2 free relay, definitely has contributed. So you guys talk to me a little bit about just the conference, the SCIAC conference, and the competitive level. You could talk a little about the SCIAC meet, but your experiences with the competition level in our conference.
Jack, do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, yeah. So for me, it was competitive. There were the schools that were kind of up there when I was there was CMS, Pomona, and a little bit of Kowloon, but it was a little top heavy when I was there, so each school probably had anywhere from 1 to 5 solid guys that would make NCs, and then it would kind of fall off. But I know now the depth is a lot deeper at SCIAC, and it's just been growing, not just, depth wise, but also the talent wise that's been coming into the SCIAC. It's a lot faster now looking at 1 through 8 finals than it was when I was there. So now you got guys going under 20, at the time when I was there, maybe one guy would be going under 20 in the 50. So, the depth has definitely gotten deeper. And I think that's just, a lot of the talent. People are starting to kind of realize the D1 thing isn't for everyone. And it's not always the best route to go to. So it's nice to see the SCIAC schools kind of get more depth and get faster from top to bottom. So that's nice to see, because like I said, at the time when I was there, it was maybe, each team maybe had 1 to 4 or 5 guys that were going to be making it to NCs, and that was about it. And not even all the schools. That was like Redlands, CMS, Pomona when I was there. I don't think any Whittier or Kowloon. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's what just hearing that, like, kind of gets me, fired up, because that's really what, as far as if I had a, selfish individual goal when it comes to coaching, I really want to get it back. I talked to Jeff Depew, shout out to Jeff Depew. Like I talk to him often, and, I really want to get it back to not just our men's program, but our men's and women's program, to where we have a presence at NCAAs, and they didn't just have a, when you guys were out there, you just have a presence. Like, you guys was like 5 guys, but you were finishing top 10, we were 12 years top 5
from the finish, or from a big team trophy. MIT was got 12 points, but that was with 5 guys. So we made some rumbling, definitely. It was unfortunate we weren't able to bring home a team trophy, but I think it helped put the school on the map, I think, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so Jack, just tell us a little bit about just your experiences with the competition level, and I don't know if you had any expectations about what the sky. I mean, I know you did a little bit of research, obviously, but just talk to me a little bit about your experience, and this is your first year kind of competing in the Skyx and how you felt. You swam more. Obviously, you swam more than the 50 free. I mean, you swam in multiple events, and just talk to us about the competition level.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it only gets faster every year and more depth. You got your consolation finalists sometimes beating your A finalists. Like, I mean, it's crazy. And so, when you come out to that, I gotta be honest, I didn't have any expectations for the Sky Meet, and I partially think that's why I did so well, because I was just like, well, I'm here, like I'm just gonna come out and swim. I mean, I've been training hard, of course, and I cared about the championship meet, but I didn't think I was gonna be able to do as well as I did, and especially with the speed and stuff that was coming out of the conference last year. I mean, it's ridiculous, and like Collin said, it seems like it used to be pretty top heavy, but now you got, I mean, obviously Cal or Pomona Pitzer and CMS are always up top up there, but now you got us kind of rubbing elbows with them. I mean, that 4x100 race at the end of the meet last year was just obnoxious. We upset CMS, which is crazy. I mean, we're making a rumble, like Collin said, which I think is cool. And you got that coming from Kalu too. I mean, so I met some of those Kalu guys. They're great dudes, and they're making a rumble too, and getting their hands dirty with that top end. And I think that's only just going to become more and more relevant. And even in the dual meets within the conference, us and Kalu is a great meet. And then us and like CMS, great meet. You got some really close races going on within those meets, and I think it's all just getting more deep with that competition level, and it's really exciting to see. And it means that we're gonna have to bring in some hot shot recruits, because we want to be up in it, because it's only going to get faster.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? But I think we're on the way. It's really about finding the kids who fit Redlands. You know what I mean? And I think there's a Redlands student experience that's different. And I'm not just saying that because I'm at Redlands, but I've been here long enough to kind of read between the lines and see, okay, I've been at the quote unquote academic prestige school like Pomona College, and they have their own kind of fit for that institution, right? But there's also a fit here, and we can't recruit like we're Pomona, because we're not, what I mean? But we have some things to offer that other schools don't, and so it's really about like communicating. That's why, what this podcast show is about, just communicating, what we have to offer, you know what I mean? And, whether you're a junior college transfer, whether you're coming fresh out of high school, whether you're transferring from a D1 program or whatever, you know what I mean? That Redlands experience is something that we're just trying to communicate to everybody, you know what I mean? And I think you guys can talk a little about this, and then we'll move on to the next segment and then get ready to close out. But from my experience, I walk around campus and, there's like little pockets to where like, man, this department is doing some amazing things, academically. And then there's, athletics, or we're getting things going. So it feels like people, for the most part, don't really know what Redlands has to offer until they get to campus. And so that's one of the obstacles I have. It's like, wait a minute, I got to find a way to communicate, what this institution where our swim and dive program has to offer before you even get here, because I want you to get here, So that's the biggest thing. I think it is, but I think we're good. We're finding, Les is doing a good job, and she's giving me a lot of insight, and it's been so dope being connected to alumni who have kind of been through that experience, you know what I mean? And can kind of help, with me and learn the ins and outs of what the swim and dive culture really represents and where we're trying to go. So I appreciate that. But the next thing, before we close out, I really wanted to talk about the student experience, right? And when I'm talking to recruits, I always say, like I said before, there's 3 elements to your student experience. You got your academic side, which should be the primary reason why you're here, right? And you have your athletic side. If you're a student athlete, specifically swim and dive, it's a huge commitment to be on the swim team. Like, we know that you love to swim and you've been doing it your whole life, but you're gonna have some time to where you contemplate, whether you should continue, you know what I mean? So that's that. And then you have the third element, which is social element. So talk to me a little bit about, Collin, you can go first, about the social element that, aside from academics and athletics, like,
so
you know what I mean?
Where the social element at Redlands, when I got there, I felt like I was part of a family. And that was one thing that really separated my experience there from my other places. The other two places that I went to is that it was one big family, not just the team, but with everyone, there's a whole student population, all the athletic programs, the Greek life, whatever that may be. Because, at the D1 level, athletes don't hang out with Greek life. Greek life doesn't hang out with athletes, whereas Redlands, you can intertwine that. And that was something that, I had never experienced or been a part of. And I was never in the Greek life, but I had a lot of friends and buddies that were a part of it. So just kind of having that family aspect was really nice, really close-knit community. Redlands almost feels like its own little bubble, which is really cool. And that was, like I said, I met my best friends there. And I was there for 2.5 years, and it was definitely the best 2.5 years of my college experience, for sure. And the classroom sizes too, which were unbelievable, 15 to 20 people, maybe 25 people in a class. And, that's something that you don't get at a lot of places, and just the hands-on with the teachers and professors and stuff like that. But social aspect, and there's a lot of stuff to do, especially now. Like when I was there, there wasn't nearly as much stuff to do, like down on downtown and things like that. But it's blown up down there the last 10 years, and it's awesome to see. And there's so much to do now, and you're right by Big Bear, which is awesome. You can just drive 45 minutes up the mountain, be up there. So you're around a lot of things, and definitely a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big part, and we have a good amount of our students are involved in fraternities and sororities. What I mean, which is so cool. And I never really thought about just the intertwining, as a student athlete. When you're in a big time program, it's man, you don't have time.
You can't see that. You wouldn't see it because you don't have the time to do that. Exactly.
Yeah. So if that's something that just being involved in an organization, period, that you can be passionate about, really, and serve. Definitely. And not worry about coaches kind of, deterring you away from that is huge. You know what I mean? Because I tell swimmers, your student experience, although you're a student athlete, you being a swim and dive, at the end of the day, at Redlands, that's just one part of your experience. It's a big commitment, but it's just one part of your student experience. You know what I mean? So we got to let you explore all of it. But Jack, go ahead. You could talk about just the social element.
And the networking that you can get with the Greek life.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
You can't beat it. You know what I mean? So that's something to look into.
Yeah. I'm a member of Chi Rho Psi here on campus. We have a lot of swimmers in that Greek org, which is awesome. It's great. And people outside of swim, which is like Collin said, huge networking opportunity. I've applied to 2 or 3 jobs through that, which I think is huge. And we do a lot of community service, and that's a big thing for me. I really like to serve the community, and that's something that I've been able to do within my fraternity, and being able to mix swim and those two, you would never be able to do that anywhere else. And it wasn't like one came in front of the other. I was able to do both and be passionate and care about both. I have a couple positions I've served at within Chi Rho Psi, and I would never felt like one took away from the other, which you would have at another school in most cases. I was able to be successful in my fraternity and be even more so successful at swim. And I think that that's huge. And in terms of the school, the campus is just gorgeous. One of my favorite things about the campus is, it'll be a nice 75, 80 degree day, and you look up and you're surrounded by snow-capped mountains. It's just unreal. It's an unreal feeling. And you're just walking around, you're walking to class while you're looking at that. It's really cool. And, the professors here really care about the departments that they're in and really care about their students. It has I mean, I can't speak, I haven't been in grad school, but it has a very grad school feel to it. You know, you have a strong senior project due at the end. They literally call it your senior thesis, depending on your major. And and you get to do that on something that you care about and you're passionate about. Currently, I'm doing that in economics in the auto industry because I'm a big car guy. And you know, I'm combining my two big passions, which is economics and the automotive world. And it's really cool. And, you know, the professors are all here for it. They're another perfect networking opportunity. The professors reach out to businesses, firms, other alumni, like all sorts of stuff, getting you in touch with people. And I think the student professor relationship here, and as well as at junior colleges, is just, it's completely unmatched with that small size. And they really, truly care about you as a student and as a person beyond the classroom. So, I mean, it's just unmatched, and I wouldn't give that up. I mean, that's what you want out of a college, period. You know, you want good teaching and good academics. And I think that Redlands does a really good job of providing that.
Definitely. You want to know that you're not a number, you know, and
for sure
they're there to help support, and they do definitely help support, and they help lead, you know, help people get jobs after finishing, which is unbelievable. You know, you go to one of those big schools, it's very tough to get one of those professors to be able to refer you to, you know, different positions and different jobs.
You're probably not even going to see your professor at a campus. You're going to be working with the TA. I mean, you're working with PhDs who really care about what they're doing at the University of Redlands. And then I had that same experience at the Santa Rosa Junior College as well. They really care about what they're doing, and they want to be there, and they're not there for research.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you guys hopping on. And, you know, I think this is another dope conversation and super insightful, man. Appreciate you, Collin and Jack. The last thing I'll say, and I'll let Collin kind of pick this, you know, you can pick a song. I have the alumni, or sometimes both, just pick a song that reminds them either of Redlands or, you know, where they're at now, or maybe it could have been a song, you know, while you during your 2 years that you remember.
I got a song.
Yeah, you could text it to me, and that'll be the title of the
I got it. You got a good one.
Podcast.
This is actually our walkout song to we were top seed going in the 400 medley relay at NCs, and there was our walkout song. So this is
There
you go. I'm pretty sure, and I'm gonna tag everybody. But yeah, I'll send you this link as well. You know what I mean? You can share it on your Instagram. I'm gonna have like snippets and, you know, break it up, but I'll send you that so you can share, you know, for your Cypress kids. And, you know, I think it's important. I don't know how much you share, you know, with them about your journey, but, you know, it's important. You know, this has been super helpful. So yeah, I won't take too much more of your time. I appreciate you guys. We'll be in touch. Collin, for sure. You know, so we can get these recruits in the Redlands,
for sure.
and get it back to what it was when you were here. But I appreciate you guys, man. Have a good one. Okay.
Thanks, you too. Nice meeting you, Jack.
Thanks, Coach. Yeah, nice to meet you, Collin. Take it easy.
You too. Good luck.
All right.
All right. We'll see you guys.